so we're standing here in front of this 412. It's one of the first to leave the building here, and it's just moments away from rolling out the door. A lot of our folks will be very familiar with some of the layout features and arrangements of this boat, but there's so many new things to talk about here. We're just excited to show it to people, and so let's go take a look. If you're very familiar with the 41, you might already notice a big feature that's completely new on the 412. One of the great things about the 412 arrangement is the privacy of the master stateroom and the master head. This area here is really an area for the guests and visitors to the boat, where we have the day head here and the overnight accommodations for anybody who might be staying on board for the night. But the beauty of this arrangement is that behind this door is entirely devoted to the owner's private spaces. So as we go into the owner's accommodations here, there's a wonderful space for a queen-size island berth, hanging lockers, plenty of storage all the way around this space. And then that takes us into its private ensuite head. So all of this is available to the owners, that they can store all of their accessories here, they can keep it all out. And when we leave the space, all you have to do to keep it private is close it one door. So that's one of the great things about this arrangement on the 412. While all of this down below might look very familiar to owners of Back Cove 41s, there are some really significant changes to this boat that are going to be completely new to people. One of the big differences that folks that have been on 41s will notice is the new helm station here. So not only is there an entirely new helm pod, but there's an entirely new look to the helm, starting with the blacked out interior. This is what we have developed to essentially achieve a low glare, so there's a lot less light reflecting back at the helmsman. It's much easier to see and easier on the eyes to see out the forward windshields. That's also combined with the materials that we use for the helm pod itself. They don't reflect back into the windows. The other thing that you'll see here that's different at the helm is there's a new switch here, and this is directly comes from having a lot of conversations with our Back Cove 41 owners. And when you're operating the Back Cove 41, the way the boat works, there's a manual valve that switches between the port and starboard fuel tanks. And in order to turn that valve, you had to go down in the engine room. So the big advantage here is that you can switch here at the helm between the port and starboard fuel tanks. So you never have to leave the helm. It all happens right here, and it's all just as easy as a click of the button here. So one of our goals with the design team on the 412 was to come up with a better mousetrap, a much improved side deck door system. And one of the ways we wanted to improve the door system is by reducing the complexity of the opening window and the lower swing door portion that we had on the 41. And so we developed a completely new welded door system that opens all together with a single hinge, positively latches open. You can run the boat with the door open, door closed, and it dramatically improves the operation as well as the seal around the door. And one of the things that allowed us to develop this new door system was we completely retooled the pilot house structure, and that in combination with the direct glazing all around us, that really allowed us to kind of advance the door system to make it much more user friendly. Along with the door system, obviously the other big improvement is the direct glaze window system. So this is automotive direct glazing that we're using on the rest of the Back Cove product line. And one of the wonderful things about it is that it is very, very robust seal against the elements. And it also allows us to do these inset opening features that are completely contained by the glass system. They're much more easy to operate and much more positively sealing. So the light that's coming into this boat and the Salon is all new to the 412. A lot of our job here is to listen to our owners that are using these boats every day and incorporating their really great constructive feedback into the design. So one of the things that 41 owners will recognize that's different about the 412 is the helm deck area here. So instantly you'll see that there's much deeper footrests that fold up and out of the way when they're not in use. And we were able to install these deeper footrests because we completely reoriented the access point into the utility space below the helm deck. So the hinges now aft, and so your access down in there is about the same size, but it allows us to have much, much better footrests and better ergonomics around the helm. One of the things that we really want to talk about and show people on the 412 is this new table arrangement here in the Salon. It's a real game changer relative to how easy it is to go back and forth between the U-shaped settee and the dinette arrangement. We wanted to simplify the whole process of doing that. So we developed this folding table system that, in combination with a hinge seat platform outboard, we eliminated the pain of having to operate two telescoping table bases simultaneously. It's a much happier arrangement that I think will encourage people to have guests on more often and use the dinette feature much more often, because it'll just be frankly easier to do. What looks like the aft-facing seat as part of the U-shaped settee here is actually a removable ottoman that we can move around the boat. And there's two reasons for that. Number one is we wanted the customers to be able to have a seating position that they could, have flexibility with where they put it around the table. If you're playing cards or have additional guests on board, you can now move this ottoman around the boat. The other thing that it does for you is it gets out of the way entirely and allows us to hinge the engine room hatch over the engine along the forward end of the hatch instead of sideways against the galley, as the 41 did. So by moving that ottoman out of the way, it engages the power to the hatch lifter and allows us to open and close the hatch from the cockpit. And it gives much better access to the engine, and it keeps that awkward hinging against the galley at bay. So I'm standing here in front of the engine hatch switch, and this is gonna open up access to the engine space and give me great access to the top of the motor. But you can see that it's not working, and there's a reason why it's not working. That takes us back to the second reason why we have this great ottoman feature, and that is any of our astute boat owners will recognize that to hinge this up along this forward hinge line, this whole ottoman would be in your way and would prevent you from doing that. So we have a safety built in here with the magnet system that prevents me from inadvertently opening the engine hatch with this ottoman in place. So if I move it out of the way, I can come back to the engine hatch and it opens right up, because the safety cutoff is all part of the installation of the ottoman. So it's very slick, really neat feature. And so folks might be wondering, well, what keeps my ottoman from sliding around when I'm underway? And the answer is there are these really interesting and neat new catches. So what these are is there's 4 catches that are arranged in a very particular pattern here on the sole, and they're relatively flush with the sole, but each one of these is a metal pin that magnetically lifts up into a receiver on the bottom of the ottoman. So it will positively lock into place anytime you put the ottoman in the location here. It will self-align, it'll find its own home, and you'll hear it click in, and at that point the ottoman is locked in with those magnetic pins, and the only way to release it is to actually push forward towards the helm seats and slide the ottoman away. So this is an entirely new door system for us on the 412, and we've put it right on center line so you can slide it out of your way to go in and out of the boat. And what this gives you is there's now 2 aft facing locations here, so you can have at the forward end of the cockpit, you can have 2 aft facing seats, or like on this boat, you can have an aft facing seat and the grill. Whereas on the 41, if you had the grill, that really took up the only option for you to have an additional seat back here. On the 412, you can have both. You can have the grill and the seat, or you can double your seating by having a seat on either side of the door system. And then we also kept the venting feature and the open air feature of having this electrically actuated window system above the grill or above the seat that you'd have here. So a lot of our customers will be appreciative of this new feature. This is the Glendenning Cable Master system, which a lot of owners will be very, very familiar with. But on the 41, it was a retract-only cable. They're pretty heavy, it's 50 amp shore power cord. So on this boat, there's just this switch that we're all familiar with. It's powered out and powered in, and then it stows in a poly encasement down in the lazarette. So this is a great new improvement to the 412.